This is Matt. Late night in the man cave after dark. It's been pouring buckets of rain all day long. We have our favorite squirrel here. No one is ever saying, Matt, thank you so much for lighting the squirrel every time you do devotions. Guys, I'm getting heartbroken. You better post something about my favorite squirrel here. I got him a couple years back, and no one's saying, Matt, it must take an awful lot of candles to light the squirrel every time you go to do a devotion. It does, and Mr. Squirrel is not being appreciated. Hey guys, today we're going to be in Psalms chapter 31. We're going to be looking at just one verse. Verse 1 it reads like this. Listen to this. In thee, O Lord, do I put my trust. Let me never be ashamed. Deliver me in thy righteousness. Friends, I meet a lot of people, and you're saying, during our conversations, as we're talking, as we're fellowshipping, we may be getting a coffee, we may be going, to Arby's and getting that beef and cheddar. I like that sandwich, okay? And that French dip, that's delicious too. I'll always break bread with you at, I'm saying at Arby's, I ain't kidding around. But within the conversation, I start reasoning, they don't trust God. There ain't no way. They're alluding that they believe in God. They're alluding that they love the Lord, okay? And then they tell me some stories over here, and I'm like, well, this isn't adding up. But honestly, they don't trust God. And listen to the text, okay? It says this, in thee, O Lord, do I put my trust. One of the telltale signs that you are where you need to be with Him, in that personal relationship with His Son, okay, is you trust God. We're always trying to reason things out, are we not? And no one's going to say, Lord, I don't trust you. But we just keep on doing things, okay, in our own strength, our own resolve. I think God's saying, go here. And you're saying, God, that doesn't make any sense. I'm doing this. And how many times have we done that? And when we did this was wrong. And then we cry out to Him, and He has to bring us back this way to go this way. All of the time. All of the time. There are seasons that God, watch this very carefully, okay, designates, okay, predetermines, okay, His perfect will for us that are going to put us in those positions to what? Cultivate our trust level, our belief in Him. I mean, really, He's not going to just let us go rogue and life is just randomly happening. Oh, no. I mean, once you see the hand of God, you realize, here's the thing, this could not have happened. Here's the thing, even you couldn't get yourself in some of the hot water I've gotten myself into unaided by God. God has thrown me in the deep end of the ocean, in the deep end of the pool, and I didn't have the little orange raft things that you could float on, okay? He wants us to cry out. He wants us to trust Him. But why am I always relying on me? And here's the problem. We cannot trust in someone we don't know and we don't trust. And it takes time in a relationship. Okay, imagine your marriage. You just got married. You trust that person, but I trust my wife a whole lot more now than I did when we first got married because I wasn't sure. I mean, it didn't mean I didn't love my wife, but I wasn't sure about her counsel, her wisdom. I knew I loved her. She was smart. She was witty. She was charming. She was all these things, but I didn't know about her reasoning skills. You know, men are such good problem solvers. You know what I'm saying? And it took time to realize, man, I could trust her with my life. And that's where you got to get with God. Well, you realize that He holds your life in the palm of His hand. He said in the book of Job, your days are determined. Meaning the day that you are going to leave this earth and hopefully through Jesus Christ open your eyes in what? In glory and in heaven, okay? But that's determined, okay? But it's the hardest thing in this life to trust someone that we don't know. We won't do it. We'll trust in this. We'll trust in us because we think we're smart. But here's the thing. James says, you don't know what tomorrow holds, where God knows all of tomorrows, okay? He sees it from an elevated view where I'm on street level, okay? And it's dirty and nasty and the lady next to me is smoking and blowing in my face. And friends, the first thing we say when someone questions us on, do you trust God? We throw the biggest, fattest grace card there is. It's like we're playing cards with a deck. The cards are this big, okay? We throw the biggest, gigantic playing card out like a joke card or something. I obviously trust God because I've asked Him into my heart. I was baptized and I pray every morning and read my Bible and devotions, okay? But in reality, we trust in ourselves. I mean, we say we trust God because only a fool would say they didn't trust God. I mean, He's smart. He created everything. You know what I'm saying? I understand he loves me perfectly, and his love isn't based on my behavior. Why would I not trust him? We don't trust him because we don't know him. Remember, the rule is this. If you don't know someone, you won't trust them. If you met someone for the first time and you were buying a car from them, and they said, I tell you what you can do. You had $4,000, you agreed on $5,000. He says, I'll tell you what, I'll hold the car, you give me $4,000 cash, you go get the other $1,000. You wouldn't want to do it. You're like, no, I'll take the $4,000 with me. I'll go get the additional $1,000. You hold the car. I'll be back in 30 minutes. He says, I'm not going to hold the car, okay? Because this has happened to me before. If you let me hold on to the $4,000, I'll hold the car. And you just have this stirring suspicion. Oh, you've read the stories about Craigslist, all the cons out there. You don't even know if the guy lives at the house, okay? You're like, I ain't doing it, man. I'll go get the $1,000. If it's sold, it's sold, okay? Because you don't know the man. Friends, we got to get to the place where we know Almighty God, that we really know that we know that we know him, that we can come boldly to the throne room of God and make our request and make our petition, okay? And look at and realize who we are in the beloved. Who am I? I'm a child of the living God. I can trust him, okay? What father is going to abuse his son? None in my camp. So the person I'm talking to across from Arby's, okay, they said they trusted God, but they weren't acting like they were trusting God. And they weren't living a life that what? Exuded, I'm trusting God. I really can trust him, meaning the stories that they were sharing with me, okay, they were the opposite of trusting God. What should I do? You see what I'm saying? It was just everything about me, and I'm going to do this, and I think this will work, and this, and you know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. Guys, that doesn't make any sense. Let me share something with you. Look at, this is going to blow your mind away. Okay, in the early church, in the Old Testament, okay, blessings from God, okay, and answered prayers from God came from one thing and one thing only, okay? It came from what? It came from obedience. It was called Hebraic thought, okay? And it wasn't based on reasoning. See, now we base our decisions on reasoning because the Greek culture came in, okay, Alexander the Great, and they just said everyone's going to speak this language, and everyone started following reasoning steps, okay? But the Bible isn't based on reasoning. It's based on obedience, okay? So what doesn't make any sense to you that God is asking you to do, which has nothing over here to do with this. God may be asking you to do something, okay? Like, I need you to mow your yard. And you're like, Lord, I told you, I'm having to go to the other side of town, and I have to talk to this person, and I have to give them money that I don't have, and if I don't give them the money, they're going to file suit against me. And God's saying, I need you to mow your grass. And you're like, Lord, are you crazy? And here's the thing, he's not crazy, but I am. Guys, remember, okay? Blessings come from obedience, okay? Always? No. Sometimes God goes over the top and he doesn't bless you, okay, and give you what you deserve. Like Abraham. Abraham didn't deserve all the things that he got, nor did David, okay? But God decides that. But there are these specific blessings that are set aside for those who obey. We know that because of Deuteronomy 28, the blessings and the cursings of God. You do this, God says this, I'm going to bless you, okay? It's a conditional promise, okay? So, but sometimes, okay, in the Hebrews and those early Jews, they understood it. Do what doesn't make sense. Do what God said to do, okay? And this need over here that has nothing to do with this over here, it will be met. That's how the church was set up, under this Hebraic line of thinking. It was God's way, which made no sense to man. Man wants to what? I'm going to reason it out. Logic. Yes, and logic has come into our churches now. Businessmen, they own businesses, and they want to run the church like a business. And they and they give approval of men who don't qualify for the position of elder, deacon, pastor. Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying. And I know God says this. But that was Old Testament times, and that, you know what I'm saying? And in light of what we know, being our modern thinkers, we think you ought to do this. Friends, it's blasphemy. It's literal blasphemy, okay? And when you go to those churches, can I share something with you from the bottom of my heart? I've yet to be at a church where they ignored the principles of God, where there wasn't sickness. So guys, we can't reason, and we can't use logic, because God's ways, he just tells us up front. He's not hiding it. That's the great thing about God. He doesn't hide anything. So he's not trying to hide any secrets at all. He's not trying to. He says, this is the way it is. I'm elevated, and I think so much higher than you, okay? I'm smarter than you. I've been around forever. I have no beginning. I have no ending, okay? You're equivalent to an ant or beneath, okay, compared to me. And that's good to know that. I'm not offended by that. Why would I want to serve a God that was close to me in proximity? That's not a God. That's a man-made Build-A-Bear God. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, we're going to start trusting God when we do what he says that makes absolutely no sense in our lives. Literally no sense. And while you're doing that which makes no sense, what are you doing? What is the one thing you're doing? You're trusting God. And you're believing him. I mean, you and I are so used to, okay, and we say, yeah, I'm trusting God. But guys, in most people's lives, in the daily grind, okay, the hour to hour, day by day life, okay, where the tires are meeting what? The road, and the chili hits the cheese dog, okay, they're doing their own thing. They can say one thing, but really in their thinking and their decisions and how, you know what I'm saying, in their analysis, I really think this is what's going on. We're excluding God. God says this, trust me. I know what I'm doing, even if it doesn't make sense to you. Why would you ever put your reasoning and your knowledge and your wisdom and try to what? Compare it to God. Do you know how insulting that would be to God? I mean, can you speak something that didn't exist and it starts to exist? Can you go outside tonight and look up into the stars and make one star? Let alone a whole universe that's a billion light years this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. You can't do any such thing. Do you know what God wants? Do you know what he desires? For you to come to him as a child, a little child in need, knowing nothing. He goes to his father and his father says, do this. Your chores today are take the garbage out. Okay, Dad, I'll do that. And he takes the garbage out. And then the dad rubs his hair and says, good boy, I love you. You know what I'm saying? God is there for you and I. But it has to be on his terms. It could never be on our terms. And if it's on your terms, it means he's really not God of your life at all. You're the God of your life. That just doesn't work, my friend, does it? Guys, watch this very carefully because now the text is going to make sense. Listen to the text. Before it didn't make sense. You just heard it and you thought, oh, yeah. And a lot of people would just skipped over it, and they always skip over it. In the Lord do I put my trust. Let me never be ashamed. Why does it say that? Because when you come to God with a need or a question, or you're seeking him for direction, he's going to direct you, and it's not going to make any sense to you. But listen to what it says. Let me never be ashamed. You obey God when it doesn't make sense, okay? He knows what he's doing. He has your back. Friends, once you get to that place where your relationship is so strong in the Lord and you are trusting him and you're not worried, watch this, my friends, you're not worried about what ends up happening. You see what I'm saying? We're trying to circumvent something that's going to happen. We're seeking deliverance. We're seeking direction. We're asking these questions. We're using our vast amount of knowledge and wisdom, okay, because we want to safeguard our lives. We want to protect numero uno. I thought he was supposed to be numero uno, okay? You know what I'm saying? No. We're trying to protect this. We're coming to God and saying, I'm going to trust you. Don't let me be put to shame as I'm obeying you and it doesn't make any sense to me and I can't figure out why you would ask me to do this in a million years. I cannot, it just doesn't make any sense. But we do it anyway. And as a result of doing this that makes no sense, it shows God he trusts me. How hard was it? Watch this. How hard was it when God came to Abraham? He says, I want you to sacrifice your son, your only son, the one that you love. He's not talking about Ishmael. Friends, when you look at that text, God is rejecting man's attempt to do it in his own strength. You know, where Sarah and Abraham are scheming how they're going to get the promised child, and they figure out, why don't you do the hoochie coochie with my handmaid and Hagar, and they have a son, and they think all's well now. We have an offspring, okay, his name's Ishmael, which is going to be what? He's going to be the descendant of all the Arabian stuff on the other side of the planet. Guys, watch this. Abraham and Sarah, what were they not doing? Didn't make sense. Sarah's old. Abraham can't have sex. This doesn't work anymore. I mean, it's not rocket science. This doesn't work. I can't have a child, Lord. When this was working, I could have a child. Sarah can't. Sarah, you know, she's not on her period anymore. She's past childbearing years, Lord. It doesn't make sense. We're going to help you out, Lord. Okay, what were they not doing? They weren't trusting God. God can move mountains. Does that make any sense that God could speak to a mountain and it moves into the sea? No. Does it make sense that Jesus could walk up to a person who was dead, and say, arise, and they arose? Or a person who was absolutely blinded, okay, and he can just put mud on their eyes and speak and they can see? What about the leopard, okay, who has leprosy? It's a death sentence. He's walking around. Does it make sense that Jesus could just be cleansed, okay, and they're cleansed. None of this makes sense, but it is the power of God over his creation. Okay? And we're so used to being in the Greek way of thinking that we exclude so much of the things of God. Yet, on the other side of the world, okay, those missionaries that are in the trenches, that are in those hostile environments, they have such a prayer time with God, and it's such a relationship with God that they actually are raising the dead, okay, and healing the lame, and those broken bones are being mended instantaneously. Not because they went to the hospital and got a cast, but because that person laid hands on it and committed it to God and asked for the healing. And it came, and it came, and it will come in your life as well. What did Abraham and Sarah do? They tried to fix it themselves, okay? Using their wisdom, their reasoning, because they didn't trust God. And yet he is the father of faith, but he was learning and he wasn't exercising what was there. It only takes faith the size of a mustard seed to move mountains, to raise an axe head, to do what can't be done. Because that little mustard seed knows this: he can, I can't. Friends, I want you to analyze your life and see how much of your life you've been trusting you. And God's been speaking to you, because he's always speaking to his children. We haven't been listening. We've been doing our own thing. We're like, well, Lord, that doesn't make sense. That's not going to give me the promotion. That's not going to get my bills paid. You know what I'm saying? I figured this is the gal. You know what I'm saying? I really like this. You know what I'm saying? We can't, really? Why don't we just do? I had a person the other day, they were asking me some advice, and here's the thing. I'm not going to give you advice. I'm going to tell you what the Word of God says, okay? But I said, go to God. Oh, I've tried that. You've tried that, okay? What did he say? Well, he said something that had nothing to do with anything that I was asking. That's it. You didn't want to do the little things? It totally reminds me, okay, of Elisha, the great prophet, which had the double portion of God's Spirit upon him, and a Syrian by the name of Naaman that had leprosy. And the Syrian that had leprosy hears that Elisha, okay, he can heal him. So he goes across country, and finally, and I'm shortcutting the story, I'm butchering the story, but let me put it right in front of you, okay? Elisha says this, but he doesn't tell him. He tells a servant to go out. Go bathe in the Jordan 7 times, and your skin will be like baby's skin. Done deal. But you know what? The Syrian says, he starts reasoning. He says, you got to be freaking kidding me. The prophet wouldn't even come out and talk to me? You see what I'm saying? Where I live, there's 10 times better rivers and creeks there than the nasty Jordan. That thing's a mud puddle. Why would I get in that? Because that's what God said. And when God says something, it's not supposed to make sense to you. It's supposed to make sense to him. Because if it made sense to you, that would make you God. When God's speaking into your life, it's not going to make sense. If it made sense to you, it would be making sense because you're the God of your own life. It's not going to make sense because God said right up front, my ways are higher than your ways. You're not going to understand them. They're not going to make sense to you, but I know what I'm doing. Okay? But when we're being the God of our own life and not trusting him with the daily affairs of our life, okay, we're what? We're shortcutting ourselves. We're stealing from ourselves. We're missing miracles. We're missing the abundant life. We're missing the fullness of who he is because the whole relationship is based on trust. And if you don't have trust and you don't have belief, what do you have? Does that make sense? I hope it didn't, because it's all of God. So that's how it is. You know what I'm saying? It's all of God. Once you get this down on the inside, oh my goodness, how liberating it is. There's such a freedom when you ask God for direction or for him to meet a need or for a miracle in your life and he says, go mow the grass. I'm going to speak to you or I'm going to talk to you or I just want to see if you'll do it. And as you do that, I heard what you said over there. See, guess what? Both his ears work. I mean, honestly, everything is in his presence so he can always hear you. Okay, do you realize how good God is and how strong God is? And I mean, he's just so understanding and loving, okay? And I love that he's a God of grace and mercy, okay? And he understands. I love that God sent Jesus to be part of us down here on earth. Can you imagine deity being placed in humanity and living in this life, and you were worshipped forever, and now you've dethroned yourself of your glory, and Jesus is walking as a man with a guy like Peter. And do you know Peter probably questioned him on everything? This doesn't make any sense, man. Why are we doing this? You know what I'm saying? Why would Jesus send us across the Sea of Galilee if there's going to be a gigantic storm? Or why is Jesus sleeping in the midst of the storm and we're going to die? Didn't make any sense. Peace be still. This is Matt, late night in the Man Cave. See you tomorrow.